The American flag has 13 stripes and 50 stars. You know how I know that? Because Pocket Ronnie helped me with my numbers.
What do you notice about this triangle? It's not a right triangle. So even though we still use sine, we'll use cosine in the next lesson, even though we still use trig functions, we're not using it as sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. When you don't have a right triangle, then you use what's called the law of sines. And this formula right here is the law of sines. So looking at this triangle, you have capital ABC and you have lowercase ABC. Your capital letters represent angles, A, B, C. Don't forget, all the angles inside a triangle add up to 180 degrees. If you know two of the angles, you can find the third angle. So knowing angles and using the law of sines can help you find the sides of the triangle as well. Remember, you cannot use Pythagorean theorem because Pythagorean theorem is only for right triangles. So to find the angles and sides of triangles that are not right triangles, we use law of sines. The one important thing I want to point out here, when you have an angle, we're going to represent it with capital A. The side across from it is represented by lowercase a. So this side correlates to the angle, the side that's opposite the angle, there's a relation, which makes sense because the smaller the angle, the smaller the side. The larger the angle, the larger the side. So always want to make sure that your answers make sense. So the angle here at B is going to correlate with how large or small is the side across from it is. So we call that lowercase b. This is capital C, that's lowercase c. Yes, those are hard to distinguish between the two. So here's what law of sines says, that the sine of this angle at A, you divide it by the side of A, is equal to the sine of the angle at B divided by the side of B is equal to the sine of the angle at C divided by the side of C. We only need to have two of those. We want to have one fraction and a second fraction. Like in other words, maybe I don't use this one. I'm only working with these two. So I need to know there are four unknowns here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, if I only have one equation, then I can only have one unknown, which tells you need to have 3 pieces of the information of the 4. You need to have 3 out of the 4 pieces of information in order to solve your unknown. And then you can use this another time, maybe using that to solve another unknown. So we just write it this way, but you only use 2 of the fractions at a time. Like I could use these 2, or I could use these 2, or I can use these 2. So let's just work a problem on how this works. At 13D3, my triangles are not drawn to scale. So the given information that I have is angle A is 42 degrees, 15 minutes. So I'm going to write that in here, 42 degrees, 15 minutes. That was for A. B is 51 degrees, 30 minutes. So at 51 degrees, 30 minutes. The one thing I will note, if your problem uses degrees, minutes, seconds, you need to have your answers in degrees, minutes, seconds. Okay, and then this is side B. Capital letters are the angles, the lowercase are the sides. Side B is 25.3. Don't have any units, so you don't have to worry about units. It doesn't tell me inches, feet, meters, centimeters, so I just don't put the units on the sides. So the instructions are wanting us to find everything else. We need to find the unknown angle and the other 2 unknown sides. So you're given 3 pieces of information. You should have 3 other answers because there are 6 pieces of information for every triangle. 3 angles and 3 sides. Okay? If they give you 3 of them, there are 3 more things to find. So you should have 3 answers. Okay, well looking at this, I know 2 of the angles, so I can find the third angle right off the bat because all the angles should add up to 180 degrees. So you can either do this in your calculator or you can do it by hand. You just need to make sure that they add up to exactly 180, not 180.01, not 179.99. So anytime it's degrees, minutes, seconds, I usually recommend doing it by hand because that's more exact than converting this into a decimal If you're going to convert into a decimal, don't round in your calculator. You have to use all the decimals. If you're going to convert that to a decimal, convert that to a decimal, add them together, then subtract from 180. Don't do any rounding. Okay? So here we have 51 degrees and 30 minutes, and I'm going to add 42 degrees and 15 minutes. So that came out to 93 degrees and 45 minutes. So I'm subtracting the 93 degrees and 45 minutes from 180. So definitely know there's going to be 0 seconds. And then here I have to borrow. So 179 degrees, that would be 60 minutes. So 60 minutes minus 45 minutes will be 15 minutes. And then this would be 86 degrees and 15 minutes. So angle C is 86 degrees and 15 minutes. So that's one of our answers. I was given angle A and angle B. Well, with that being said, then probably what I would use is these two fractions to solve. Okay? So if I did that, then I have sine of A over the side of A, and then sine of B over the side of B. So now let's fill in what I know. So sine of A was 42 degrees, 15 minutes, all over, I don't know side A. Okay, so I'll leave that as an unknown. Is equal to sine of, and B was 51 degrees, 30 minutes, all over, I do know side B, which was 25.3. When you set this up, you should only have one unknown, okay? Because I only have one equation, I need to have one unknown, that I can solve this. How do we solve this? Cross multiplication, okay? So sine of 42 degrees, 15 minutes, times 25.3, that's on one side of your equal sign, is equal to, and then A times sine of 51 degrees, 30 minutes, okay? So now you have to give me a second to convert that and put that in my calculator. Okay, so this is the same thing. If I converted 42 degrees and 15 minutes, that's the same thing as 42.25. If I convert that into decimal, okay? I'm just going to show y'all each step along the way of what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get a decimal, get the value of sine for that. So sine for that is 0.6724 if I just round it to 4 decimal places. Okay, now I'm going to put this into decimal. I'm going to convert it from degrees, minutes, seconds to decimal. That'd be the same, that'd be the same thing as saying 51 degrees, 0.5, 30 minutes is half of an hour. Duh. So sine of that is 0.7826. Multiplying these two together, $17.012, whether you want to carry it to 2 or 3 decimals, whichever. My final answer will probably be to 2 decimals. I usually do 2 decimals for everything except for when doing a trig function. When I'm doing sine of an angle, then that's always 4 decimal places. Okay, here to solve for your A, divide 0.7826 to both sides. And that came out to where A is 21.74. And I don't remember if the book has it to 2 decimals or 1 decimal place, but okay, now we need to define side C, and we have to use that angle that we calculated, so it's important that you calculate that correctly. Okay, I'm erasing this so I can use this space. So since I already have been given information for B, then I'm using given information for B, and then I'll use this to find my side C. So I'm going to be using sine of B over side B, and then sine C over lowercase c. So this would be sine of 51 degrees, 30 minutes, all over side B was 25.3. And then sine of, and C is 86 degrees, 15 minutes over C, which I don't know. This is a lowercase c. So again, we can cross multiply. So sine of 86 degrees, and in decimal, that is 0.25, 86.25 degrees, times, I just converted the degrees, minutes, seconds to decimal, times the 25.3, that's your left side, and then C times sine of 51 degrees and 30 minutes is 51.5 degrees in decimal. Okay, so now to solve for C, I basically am dividing both sides by this. That cancels. Okay, now I just need to get decimals for this. So sine of 86.25 is 0.9979 times 25.3, then divide that by sine of 51.5, 0.7826. Now I'm just going to go ahead and multiply all that out. 0.9979 times my 25.3, get an answer for that first. Now divided by 0.7826. That came out to C is equal to 32.26. And now I've got three answers. I have angle C, then the length of side C, and then the length of side A. Now we're going to move on to 13D5. Again, my triangles are not drawn to scale. So but we are given that the side of A is 23. So A is 23. Side C is 10. That's a lowercase c. Then the angle of C is 25.77 degrees. And I need to try to find the other two angles and then side B. I only know one angle, so I can't do any kind of subtracting from 180 to find the other two angles, so I have to use the law of sines. So you look at what's given. I'm given C and A, so that's probably where I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with sine of A, and then I'm going to use C, because those are the two things that I'm given. So plugging what I know, sine of, I don't know angle A, but I do know side A is 23. And then sine of angle C is 25.77 degrees. And then side C is 10. Remember, once you have a fraction set equal to a fraction, you should only have one unknown. I do. So I can solve this by cross multiplication. 10 times sine of A equals 23 times sine of 25.77 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and get a whole number for that. So sine of 25.77 degrees is 0.348. I'm going to go ahead and multiply it to 23. So taking the sine of that and then multiplying it by 23, that was 9.999. 10 times sine of A. I need to divide both sides by 10. So anytime you're trying to find the angle, this number, if it's sine or cosine, should be below 1. So taking that, dividing it by 10, 0.9999, we need to find the angle. This is when you do the arc sine. So basically what you're finding is the arc sine of A. That's when you use your second button on your calculator to find the angle. We're doing the arc sine of this. So then angle A is equal to 89.19 degrees. I'm finding an angle, so don't forget your degree symbol. Okay, so now that I have found angle A, which was this, 89.19 degrees, now I can find angle B, because they should all equal 180. So basically I can take my 89.19 and then add it to my 25.77 and then subtract that off from 180, and that turns out that angle B is 65.04 degrees. All of your angles should add up exactly to 180. Okay, exactly, down to all your decimals. So now I know angle B. The only thing that I'm left to find is side B. So then I'm going to use sine of B over B, and then you can either pick A or C. I will probably pick to use C because I was given angle C and given side C. Neither one of those was anything I calculated. So filling in sine of, I now know angle B is that. I'm solving for side B. And then C was 25.77 degrees. And then the length of side C was 10. Now I can use cross multiplication. So that would be 10 times sine of 65.04 degrees is equal to B times sine of 25.77 degrees. To solve for B, I would be dividing both sides by this. At this point, there's more than one way to solve, depending on which step you want to do first. So, just to show some of my steps, I'm going to get sine of 65.04. I'm going to multiply that to 10. That came out to 9.066 divided by now sine of 25.77. That's 0.4348. Dividing that out, I came up that B, side B is 20.85. No units on that because they don't give you